So this brings us to a discussion with regards to the politics of what does it mean to have states that can now outlaw and ban abortion. And practically, like we mentioned from before, even though there's lip service in the law to the idea that a woman should have access to abortion or voluntary termination of a pregnancy if her life is in danger, there are a number of health risks that are sanctioned by the Sharia for voluntary termination that are not only because it's going to cause a mother to lose her life. And again, like we said from before, when it happens, and you can always retrospectively say that, oh well, how could we have known after you close the door for someone to do something that they asked for their own health, and then the consequences that that person died from it. And one of the things I see repeated a lot by people is that, well, think of how many fetuses are going to be saved, and the question occurs, well, tell me, if we want to look at this, like, think of how many fetuses are going to be saved. It's not perfect, but think of how many fetuses are we going to save. We're going to look at this from the quantitative perspective. In order to be honest about that, first let's decide, okay, if we're going to keep the scorecard or tally, does one fetus saved equal one mother saved? Is it justified to lose a mother in order to save a fetus? The Sharia of Islam it very clearly indicates no. And if a person wanted to put a metric on it, which is not a very nice, like, human thing to do, like, it lacks, there's a type of, like, coldness in it. But if you want to put a number to it, I don't think even you can put 1 to 10. 1 to 10. Why would someone suggest that? Is because the dia of the janeen is 1/10 of the dia of the mother, in terms of qatl al khata, or in the terms of the of manslaughter, or in the terms of involuntary, I guess, isqat, in this sense, involuntarily causing termination, or voluntarily causing termination, or the involuntary murder of the mother. But the fact that even the qisas doesn't exist, that the right of retaliation of an eye for an eye, that the life of the janeen is not put on par with the life of the mother, seems to indicate that, I don't know, that saving all of those fetuses, which we don't even have hard data about how many of the fetuses are terminated for health reasons and how many are not. Like, I don't know that it's as clear as people claim it is. Let people put forth some sort of data or whatever in order to make these things clearer. But that's a question that has to be answered. Now, if you're in Texas and you're in Oklahoma and you're in these pro-life states, if you need to get the DNC done, the dilation and curettage, it's the same. It's the same procedure for, I believe, first trimester uh, uh, um, abortions, and for clearing the rahim, the womb, of a miscarriage in the first trimester as well. You know, think about, why is it that when you travel in rural localities, there are Muslims everywhere, all throughout the South. The reason is that one of the main reasons is that our doctors that come from the Muslim world, they receive their visas, green cards, and very high-paying jobs in order to be in all of these far-flung rural localities. Why? Because people don't have access to healthcare and medicine. Even then, the places that they're in, and I've been to some really weird places that have huge palatial masjids. They have like 40, 50 doctors that make more money than their counterparts in the city, and they obviously live in like rural parts of like North Carolina, South Carolina, Arkansas, Georgia, Tennessee, these types of places, Kentucky, and the cost of living is so low, and they make more than the doctors that live in the city. All of this, why? Because they need to pay that much money, and they need to actually allow people in from out of the country in order to ensure healthcare in those rural localities. So when access to abortion closes, necessarily the access to those exact same procedures, the DNC and the like, in order to save the life of a woman who's miscarried, that access diminishes as well. And yes, I completely get the fact that deleting children as a lifestyle choice from zina is bad, and I totally get the fact that deleting children because you want to finish a college degree or because you don't want to like lose out on a promotion at your job is, as far as I can tell, a very inhuman thing to do. However, let's not pretend that the lack of access to these facilities that are needed for the health of mothers, in which is a lot of blur, and there's a lot of blur in terms of like, is this a life or death situation or not? Restricting access by making the doctors fear that they're going to go to jail, that they're going to lose their license, or having to even wait an hour, 6 hours, 10 hours a day, 2 days in order to get permission, in order to do certain things. All of these things, they can cause life and death. They can cause irreparable harm. They can cause excruciating pain to a woman. And for those of you who've never, seen your wife in that pain before, I don't know what to tell you, except for, again, somewhere between a third and a half of conceptions, they don't make it to delivery anyway. The complications are many, and history is replete with tales of women dying in all of these processes. And the thing is this: is who is this problem going to be for? Because you want to talk about the politics and you want to talk about the situation on the ground. Who is this going to be a problem for? Is it going to be a problem for a household who has like a combined income of $250,000? Absolutely not. Sit in your car and drive your wife to the next state if that's where the clinic is, or drive your wife to the hospital, which is 50 or 60 miles further away than whatever clinic that got shut down. Fly someone somewhere. You have the money for it. Why not? What about this? What about the single mother who is in a rural locality and works at the local McDonald's? The burden of this is going to be disproportionately suffered by the poor. And this is something that we need to think about. That even pro-life Congress people, this happens, just do a Google search, the most obnoxiously pro-life Congress people. Obnoxious, why? Not because not wanting to abort fetuses is a bad thing, but obnoxiously in the sense that the complete, like looking down at people, holier than thou type people. When their mistresses conceive children from their affairs with their staffers, they pressure them to get an abortion, and they can get it. It's an issue of what? It's an issue of access. And just like the issue of access, people rejoice that, mashallah, we shut down access to those people who want to use abortion for illegitimate purposes. You also shut down access to those people who want to have those same services for legitimate purposes, whether it's for an abortion or whether it's to care for a woman who needs exactly identical services because of a miscarriage. And if you want to do the numbers, bring the numbers, and then tell me how many mothers is it worth losing in order to save a janine or a fetus, or how many fetuses need to be saved in order to be able to write off the loss of a mother. And when talking about politics, if you think the pro-choice versus pro-life culture war the primary issue of that culture war is abortion, you obviously aren't paying attention. Why? Because the pro-choice camp, my body, I can do with my body whatever I want to. I should make decisions for my health that I'm convinced of, and nobody has the right to tell me what to do. Did they get up and advocate for the rights of people who didn't want to take the COVID vaccine? No. Should they have? That's a different discussion, and I'm not saying that they should have, but I'm saying if it was a Usulian principled position, they didn't. It's not a consistent explanation to characterize it as pro-choice. It's not. It's not a usuli madhab that they have. Rather, abortion is a small module of a larger project, a modernist project, in order to what? Remove any sort of rules from human beings. It's this whole, post-enlightenment humanist project in order to remove rules from people, in order to remove any roles that people accept, in order to have a type of usuli freedom which Muslims don't find as a good thing, the freedom even from God and even from what's right and wrong, in order to pursue what? Your own happiness as itself an end, which is a very satanic end. Not to say that it's satanic to want to be happy, but to make happiness into your idol is definitely kufr. That what we say as a Muslim, that as long as you are the slave of Allah, you'll be free from everyone else, and as long as you're free from Allah, you'll be the slave of anything and everything that comes by you. Your tawkil will be made to whatever thing your desires are, and Allah is the one who created the heavens and the earth from nothing. He's our God. Our desires are a false idol, all of them. Just like that, however, if you think the pro-life camp gives a damn about life, consider the following. Consider that those are the same people who are sending billions of dollars in weapons to Ukraine to fight Russians. Those are lives as well. Consider the following. They bombed the bleep whole countries of the Muslim world, like Afghanistan, like Iraq, like Somalia, mercilessly for decades. Admittedly, on false pretexts, describing people killed as collateral damage. They literally opened up an entire prison in Guantanamo Bay in order to not have to either enact the Geneva Convention of Rights for their prisoners from the Muslim world from these like genocidal wars, nor American law. Those are the people who care about life. They're the same congressmen and the same senators that stonewall healthcare in the Congress. They're the same ones that will force a person to deliver a child that might be harmful for them or that may not be harmful for them, that they should deliver. But at any rate, one way or the other, they wish to coerce that person to deliver that child. Just so that right after the child is delivered, if the mother or the child don't have insurance, they'll be let die on the street. Give me a break. This is ridiculous. If you think the people on the coalition, these pro-life coalitions, except for very few people, very few exceptions, give a damn about life, if this is about abortion in the first place, this is an extremely naive take. This is extremely naive take. What is one of the benefits from outlawing abortion? It has to do, in my opinion, from what I can see. Again, this is not fiqh, this is not deen. You can take it or leave it. But if you look at these identitarian movements in Europe, if you look at these white nationalist movements in America and Europe, why is the Steve Bannon, holds conferences and comes and goes from Hungary, and that Viktor Orban is one of the few people that Donald Trump actually seems to respect. Who's the leader in Hungary? They're nationalists, and they consider Muslims and Islam to be a threat. Over here, do you think that our whatever white ethno-state advocates and white nationalists in our country, white nationalists is just a fancy word for the Klan. Do you think the Klan didn't notice that the demographic future of America is very brown, that brown people are having children at a higher rate than white people are? Do you think that this doesn't somehow concern them, that the most precipitous decline in birth rates demographically happens to be for those people who are going to be tomorrow's Republicans? I have no problem with white people having children. I have no problem with black people having children. I have no problem with Christians and Jews having children. I think let everybody have as many children as they want to. Don't blame Muslims if we have families and if we have children and you think that we're going to outpopulate you one day. Have your own families, have your own children. Instead of spending, $10,000 for a weekend to go and watch the Super Bowl with your buddies, why don't you buy a house and a farm and go play catch with your like 7 sons? I have no problem with any of these things. And the thing is, the idea is that I'm not saying what I think. I'm saying how these people think. It's that same idea of, somehow resources are going to run out, that other people are going to outpopulate us. What was the whole Nazi rally in Charlottesville while Trump was in power? It's these kind of khaki and polo shirt wearing Klansmen with tiki torches. How cute. Shouting, "You will not replace us. You will not replace us. You will not replace us." Why would somebody be shouting, "You will not replace us"? The Kalam in the Zahir is you will not replace us, while the thing that they were saying in their heart is, oh bleep, they're replacing us, right? This is the concern that somehow if we can force in those states where these demographics are preponderant, if we can somehow force our tomorrow's electorate to keep giving children, we'll still be able to win elections, and we'll still be able to have a skeleton crew to run our country. This is the same reason, right? The whole world is crying about, oh, global warming because of overpopulation, blah blah blah, and it's fine. I'm not a climate denier and whatnot, but they're crying about, the whole Europe is crying about that. In that same Hungary, they have a law that if a Hungarian woman gives birth to 4 children, she receives a lifetime exemption from paying income tax. Why is it that they give subsidies to people who have children in all of those countries if really overpopulation is the problem in the world? Why not allow immigrants into the country from countries that are quote unquote overpopulated? It's not as straightforward as you think. And the thing is, again, if people are afraid that their own race or their own tribe or their own color or their own nation or their own religion, their populations are dwindling, and they want to do something to shore it up, good for them. Let them do it. Why is it that you need to clamor and curse out your own ulama and curse out people in your own community and spend your political capital on what's essentially somebody else's demographic problem, what's essentially somebody else's political problem? And this is one of the bigger political issues that I really scare me about the life of America, Muslims in America, and really in the world, which is that because we don't have our own native institutions, because we don't think about Islam from an Islamic point of view, because we discount aqidah and fiqh and our own communal issues as being secondary in importance and in relevance to what's going on around us, because we see ourselves as irrelevant, even though we're not. If we were irrelevant, CoverGirl would not have trans hijabis, to advertise their makeup or whatever, cosmetics companies or whatever, right? You wouldn't see hijabi extras in TV shows. Obviously, they see us as relevant and see us as a way of making money. But if we didn't see ourselves as so irrelevant, if we politically looked inward and built our base up to the point where we can represent ourselves and represent our ideals just like the Catholic Church can, and just like the Christian right can, and just like, liberal modernists can, and just like the gay, I don't say gay, it's just the LGBTQ lobby can. If we don't do that, what ends up happening is the people that we look to as leaders are the leaders that are chosen for us. That in the LGBTQ camp, this woman speaks, but she wears a hijab. All of a sudden, she's a Muslim leader. In the Democratic Party, Khizr Khan is now, asked to come to the DNC. Now he's our leader as well. And so and so activist is interviewed on Fox News, or so and so activist is interviewed on CNN. They're famous. They're our leader. The Republicans gave this person the time of day. Now they're our leader. They're not our leaders. They're people who are working jobs for other people. There are Muslims that are working for, just like there are Muslims that are working for far left-wing liberal activist groups, but they don't represent us. Just like that, there are Muslims who work for conservative Christian groups, evangelical groups, the Catholic Church. They do big collaborations and receive funding from them as well. And they also don't represent us, follow the money. Someone says, how can you look inside someone's heart and say that they're doing this, insincerely? No, I can't. But if someone's getting paid, you would be an idiot to not, to not see a red flag there. And, the politics are that this is a war in which there are two camps, neither of which give a damn about us or our future. And actually, both of which, I shouldn't even say they don't give a damn. They actually despise us. Why should we fight their battle for them? We should be fighting our own battles. We should be looking to our own community, that what is it that our agenda is in the world, and what is it that we want to do in the world.